everyone, Helen here, and welcome to the Mousiemakes podcast. It's really, really lovely, as I always say, to have you here with me for a little bit of time today. And I'm mostly going to chat about crafty things today. But just before I go on to that, last week I mentioned a couple of books. I was busy chatting about solitude, and I'm so glad that lots of you really enjoyed that. Me just sharing my experiences of solitude and what you can gain from them. That was really nice. Thank you if you commented, especially. But anyway, I mentioned a couple of books, and there was a third one that I had meant to mention before I finished last time, and it's this one. It's called How to Be Alone by Sarah Maitland, and she is the author of one of the books I mentioned last time. This one is much easier to read, get into, and I think it would be particularly useful for anybody who's found themselves having to spend a lot of time alone and finding it a little bit tricky. This book is really encouraging and helpful, just to maybe make you think of the situation in a slightly different way. But it's interesting for anybody really who's interested in solitude and things. So yes, and I will put the details in the description box as I always do. But on to crafty things. I haven't got that much to show you, but anyway, we shall start first of all with a finished pair of socks here, and these are going to be a gift for somebody actually, but probably they're not watching. So these are made from one of my favourite sock yarns, which is Felici, Knitpicks Felici sock yarn, and hopefully I can find the name of the colourway. If I can find it, I'll put it down in the description. And I knit them as usual on 3mm double pointed needles, and I start normally with 52 stitches. In this case I started with 56 because I needed them to be a little bit bigger. What else to say about them? I always forget to say things about socks and things. Lots of other people, when I'm watching the podcasts, are so good at mentioning everything about them, and then I realise I've not said half the things about them. Let's see if I can do it today. I've got a 2x2 rib at the top. I don't know what you call that kind of heel. It's just a slip one, knit one heel thing at the back. I don't know what these toes are called. See, I'm not very knowledgeable. This is why I don't normally mention them. Oh dear me. Anyway, the toes are just the kind where you have to graft your stitches at the end. You have to do Kitchener stitch. And I know I've heard quite a few people say they don't like doing Kitchener stitch, but I love it. I really love Kitchener stitch. It's just like a little magic spell you cast on the stitches, because first of all they're there, and then suddenly you can't see any seam at all. So yeah, I like doing that. So I haven't tried any other kind of toe either. These are really my comfort knitting. They're just plain socks. I'm so familiar with them, and yeah, it's just, you know, one of the projects I'll have on the go, because it's a comfort. I know what I'm doing exactly. And I have started another pair of socks. But I'm not going to show you those because that would spoil a surprise for somebody, but I'll show you the yarn that I'm using, which is a West Yorkshire Spinners sock yarn. You can see it now because I've forgotten already what it's called. Something I'm doing for the first time with this pair of socks, although they're just plain socks, is to do a contrast cuff, heel and toe. I know, very daring there. And I'm excited to see what they look like. So yeah, and hopefully I'll have those to show you at some point, where all the things that I'm knitting for people for Christmas, knitting or crocheting or whatever, I'll tend not to show you sort of from now to Christmas, but after Christmas I'll have kind of put all my presents together and taken a little video of everything, so I can share with you after Christmas things that I haven't been able to show you before. Anyway, so that's the socks. In fact, the only other finished thing I've got to show you this week are these two little mice. Yeah, I know, more mice. Do I really need more mice? Well, yeah, I just felt that I did. Now these two little mice are my own pattern. So the first time that I've just properly written a pattern to make some mice. And the reason that I've made my own pattern is that I couldn't find any mice patterns with the features that I needed, with one particular feature that I needed. And yeah, because there's loads of mice patterns out there, but anyway, these are my own, and I'm just proud that I've got my own little mice there. Special feature number one is that inside the arms there are pipe cleaners, and I decided that I would knit eye cords for the arms around the pipe cleaners. Well, because I thought it might be easier than poking the pipe cleaners in afterwards, which I have tried to do before. It wasn't very easy. It was very, very fiddly, and I think possibly I might just go back to sticking pipe cleaners inside eye cords. And the tail as well. I knitted the eye cord around the tail as I went along. Fiddly, definitely. And the other special feature about these mice is this. Yeah, the head comes off. Top of body has a hole in it, which is knitted. I knitted like a little plug, and then, or a socket, I suppose. And then the head, I knitted an extension on, like a very long neck, which then fits into the hole. So you might be wondering, why these special features? Well, I want to use these mice to make some animations, for some stop motion animation. And so I wanted flexibility in their arms and tail and in their head position. So yeah, so that's exciting. I have already got a plan in my head for the first little animation that the mice are going to star in. I haven't made it yet, and I'll not tell you any more about it at the moment, but I am excited for that one. So there we go, the little mice. However, I have made another gnome animation, and which I'm going to share with you now. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen it, so I'm sorry, you know, it's not a surprise for you, but lots of you are not on Instagram, and so I'm going to show you the gnome animation in just a moment. It's not perfect, but I am just learning. This is just the fourth one that I've ever made, and I thought, as my general approach in my podcasts is just to share with you my process of learning things, learning new things quite often, and that's definitely the case with this. So I'm hoping that because I'm sharing right from the beginning of learning to do it, that maybe over the weeks and months we might see some improvement. You never know. Anyway, in this latest animation, I feel like the lighting isn't quite good enough. It's a little bit darker than I would have liked it to be. It's really, really hard in stop frame animation to get the lighting level just right, or be in a place, unless you actually had a posh studio with lights and things, which I'm not planning to invest in at the moment, at least, then it's really hard to find a place in your house where the light level is nice and steady and is not too bright and not too dark. So yeah, I don't think I had the position quite right for this one. And not all of the movements in the animation was satisfactory, but you know, it's okay, and I am just learning. So without further ado, here's my fourth gnome animation. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Short and sweet. Yeah, only 20 seconds long, but it took me probably more than a day to do it, because I also had to record the music and, you know, stick it all together. Anyway, I've got more ideas for what the gnomes are going to get up to, as well as the mice. So that's something to look forward to. Yeah, and as I said, you know, if I waited for things that I show you to be perfect, I would rarely have anything to show you. So yeah, I want to show you that you can just have a go at things without them being absolutely amazing. Yeah, so the last project I'm going to share with you today is a pair of mitts, which are not finished at the moment. This is a pair of mitts with gnome patterns on, and a perfect example of how those of us who are crafters can just easily get sidetracked and distracted by seeing a lovely pattern and go, oh, I must make that, I must cast that on straight away, without really thinking about all the other things that you're doing. Anyway, my excuse is that I'm joining in with the Gnome Knit Along on Instagram, run by Angela of YarnNYarns. And yeah, well, that is my excuse. But really, you know, I've got other things I should be getting on with. Anyway, it has not been the most straightforward and enjoyable process, even though I love the little gnomes in the pan. My first major problem was, or setback I suppose, was that I realised that I had gone way past the place where you have to put the hole for the thumb. And yeah, I was just so focused on the pattern, you know, on the chart, I forgot to notice that I had to put the hole in, or you had to use a contrast yarn to mark where the thumb hole was going to be. And so I had to take out quite a few rounds to go back to that place. And the pattern is one that I've bought, and it's okay, the pattern, but I think it's definitely not aimed at relative beginners to making this kind of thing, because there were certain things, certain skills that it just expected that you knew how to do. So yeah, I would have liked a little bit more explanation. You know, you get good value from some patterns that you pay for, because there's absolutely loads and loads of explanation and photos and things showing you how to do things, and yet you buy other patterns which might cost the same and which don't have nearly as much explanation in. So anyway, I got past that, but I became really disgruntled with how the mitt was looking, because it just looked so lumpy. And I was being really careful not to pull the yarn that I was carrying behind the knitting too tight. It was nice and loose. I couldn't understand why it was looking so lumpy, and I was feeling really grumpy about the whole thing. I'm thinking, oh, I don't know whether I'm going to make another mitt. Anyway, I decided to do something which I don't normally do. Normally if I knit a pair of something, I'll knit the pair and then I block them. I decided this time to block this first one and then see if, you know, it looked better. And that meant that I had quite a lot of ends to sew in. You can see in this photo here, hopefully. I don't know, I think there were about 60 ends or something, not that I was counting. It took me about an hour to sew in all those ends. Because for example, the red, using the red here is quite far apart. I didn't want to carry the red yarn all that way up the sides, or maybe I should have done. I wouldn't have had so many ends to tie in, but there we go. I sewed all the ends in. The blocking did its magic, and although then it's not completely flat now, it's a lot better than it was, and I won't feel embarrassed going out wearing them and somebody looking and saying, oh, that's really lumpy, because they're okay now. So I've already made a start on the second mitt, so I will hopefully soon have a pair of gnome mitts to show you. Yeah, so that's the mitt. So I'm just going to finish today with a bit of gentle piano music. I know lots of you really like having a bit of piano to listen to, and while I'm playing the piano I am going to be just doing a bit more watercolour painting practice. Yes, This is yet another thing that I've been learning just recently, just this year really. I first had a go at watercolour painting. I haven't been to any lessons, I've just watched a few YouTube videos and just had a go. And I know that there'll be some of you watching who are really, really proficient at this kind of thing, this kind of painting. And then there'll be lots of you probably who look at what I do and think, wow, that's amazing, I couldn't do that. But the reason I'm showing it to you is not because I want to be compared or compare myself to somebody who I think is brilliant or somebody who maybe, doesn't do as well. It's not about comparison, although it's really hard not to compare yourself with other people, especially when you see paintings that, which do look absolutely brilliant. So I'm showing you this just to kind of encourage you if you haven't tried something new for a while. I'm always doing this, aren't I? Try something new. So that's one of my frequent topics of conversation. But yeah, I just want to encourage you to try something that you might have quite fancied, and you might be really surprised. I have been surprised that I have achieved better paintings than I would have imagined. I thought they were going to be completely rubbish, and I can see that they're not completely rubbish. Some people looking think they're really good, and others will see through the fact that I am, not an experienced artist. But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to sit quietly and paint one or two things for you and play the piano. So enjoy. Right then, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the small number of things that I've been making, and thank you again to everyone who's commented, or if you've just watched. If you've watched all the way through to the end, well done. And I'll really look forward to you coming back another time. So until then, keep busy and take care of yourself, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.